Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose with Metalholic Magazine and Metal Nation Radio. Joining us today, Memorial Day, Jarvis Leatherby of Night Demon. How are you doing, my friend?
Pretty good, man. Happy Memorial Day to all.
Absolutely. And you guys, probably today, hitting the road, heading up north, I think, do some dates with Anvil, which should be an awesome time.
Yeah, it should be cool. We just actually got off of a 6-week tour, so no rest for us.
Absolutely. You guys have been pretty relentless on the road. As a matter of fact, you guys spent a good chunk of last year on the road with Raven, another amazing power trio. What was that experience like? Because you guys are sort of like a modern-day version of them in many ways. Did you?
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, like where I guess, God, there's so many things to that. But I will say, you grow up and don't want to say idolize people, but you're inspired by other people, and especially these guys from England, like you just think you're never even going to meet them,
Right. And
you end up on tour with them doing the total DIY effort too. Myself and John Gallagher from Raven, I mean, we booked the whole tour ourselves, So it was the first, we played over 50 shows with those guys internationally. We're about to do it again in June in Poland, but when we first started out doing it, it's like I remember sitting with the guys and my phone ringing, and I'm like, oh my God, John Gallagher's calling me, And then halfway through the tour, it's like, hey guys, John's calling me. Well, should I answer? No, it's just, you start doing business with your heroes and they become your peers, and then you have a totally different dynamic and a different relationship. I mean, we had some rough times with Raven for sure, like not between the bands at all. We're like brothers, they're like our older brothers. But just, we were out on the road doing it ourselves, and there was just, a lot of hurdles to get through. It was a great experience, though. And, we forged like a lifelong friendship with those guys. And that's really what got us going. I mean, that was our first, like, major national tour. I hate to make the Metallica comparison, but, we kind of felt like that, like, wow, we're like, they did it with those guys, now we're doing it with those guys. And it did definitely, I mean, that tour helped us the most get off the ground. We were an unsigned band at the time, and it really brought in like an older audience to what we were doing. There's some people that, hadn't seen Raven since the 80s, and they had no idea that there were newer bands doing this kind of stuff, and they were just blown away, and we've held on to those fans now for a couple of years.
Right. I was brokenhearted when you guys came to Boise on that tour. Raven didn't make it, so...
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those things too. I mean, they had so many problems on that tour. They bought like an RV. They got a good deal on this huge like RV, and I think they paid like $18,000. And at the end of the tour, they did $22,000 in repairs. They didn't even finish the tour in the thing. They ended up finishing it like old school style, like in a U-Haul, with the roll-up door. Like two of the guys had to be in the back, like in the dark with the gear. It was just crazy, man. But yeah, definitely, it was good to come to Boise. It was good to come there recently as well on a weekend and have some more people there. So
that was such a great lineup for that show that night. You guys, Spellcaster, Stryker, any of the three of you could have been there as a headliner with 3 local acts, and it would have been worth it. I wished we'd have had a better turnout for you guys that night.
Thank you. Well, you know what? Like I always say, the important people were there, and I honestly do feel that way, because the people that want to be there are there. There's plenty of times you play in front of an audience that doesn't care, and that's no fun. That's not good for us, for the band at all. It doesn't really matter how many people are there. It matters who's there and how engaged they are.
Well, and it builds. Every time you come back, hopefully it builds and it builds. And you guys, I mean, it was my first opportunity to see you guys live, and the Night Demon sound is so huge. I mean, one of the things that I struggle with power trios, that lineup, is when the guitar drops out for solos, there's this emptiness there. But your bass is so thick, there are no holes in the music when you guys perform live. It was fantastic.
Thank you. I like to play, I like to think of the bass in Night Demon as like a big guitar. Like it's definitely it's what the rhythm section of the band drives pretty hard between me and Dustin, but I mean, that's the thing, I'll solo with Armand, I mean, when he does a solo, I mean, we kind of we take the Black Sabbath school of thought, I guess, like Black Sabbath never needed a second guitar player,
right.
And so we kind of we love Maiden and bands like that. we try and incorporate, all that stuff into just a guitar and a bass. We do, I hate to say it's an innovative thing because, I mean, we're obviously inspired by old style of music, and I don't claim to be the most original band. But, I think, doing the guitar and bass harmonies together is something that really hasn't been done before, and it's kind of our signature. And we just did it out of necessity because we didn't have the pieces, we didn't have another guitar. So it's kind of cool how that came about, and I'm stoked that we could put our own stamp on it.
Well, and that has sort of made me wonder too, because you're out with the Gallagher brothers, and those guys have been doing not exactly the same thing, but John, amazing bass player, and they've been doing that and filling that sound all these years. Did you learn anything from them?
No, I mean, I learned some stuff from them. I learned what not to do. No, I'm joking. But no, I mean, I've had that sound since before, and I was getting compliments from those guys about it, so we have a different approach to playing as well, John and I. He uses a lot lighter strings and he plays with his fingers, and he's a great, he'll do a half-hour bass solo during the show that'll blow your mind, But no, I'm more of the meaty guy in the band, like holding it down, but very fierce, like as if I could do it on my own. I think almost the rhythm guitar complements the bass in Night Demon. I think there's the rhythm guitar has the key riffs and stuff, but as far as what I'm doing, I think the guitar is the polish on the top versus it's usually the other way around. But John and I have we're very different stylistically and our approach to the equipment and everything else like that. And I won't give away all my secrets, but we've definitely calculated and fine-tuned like how to get that sound. And when you saw us that night, we were actually using the other band's gear,
right?
Which we rarely do. But I knew I was confident. I was totally confident that I can get it to sound like us. And people were like, the guy who's bass rig I used, he's like, dude, what did you do? And I'm like, I don't know, man. So
it worked very well. And so now a lot of people still don't know who Night Demon is yet. Like you said, every time you go out there, you meet more and more people who are like, holy shit, where'd this come from? So to learn a little bit more about you and get the backstory, maybe you can tell us your path musically and what ultimately led you to create Night Demon.
I've played in bands for 20 years. I've been in the music industry for a long time. I dropped out of high school to tour. I'm 35 now. But, I've been just like most people, you end up in various bands through the years. With Night Demon, when I started playing music, all roads lead from Metallica, Iron Maiden, and Black Sabbath. Those were like the accessible bands pre-internet, growing up in like white suburban Southern California,
Right.
Those are the things that changed my life. And from that point, I started to discover other bands through those bands. I wanted to know about the bands that influenced those bands and the bands that those guys liked, So I would hang out at record stores all the time, and I would do tape trading, and I would order like copies of Sounds magazines through these stores and like get all these UK mags and like start reading about this stuff and be like, oh man, what's this band? What's this band? And just, like randomly, you'd find stuff in record stores or CDs of bands that you heard of, or even like Best Buy when they first started, I would find like crazy Michael Schenker compilations or like new wave of British heavy metal compilation that Lars and Metal Blade put out. Like that thing changed my life. I was like, okay, finally, I knew the bands, I knew what they looked like, I knew the names, but I never knew what a lot of them sounded like. That's the crazy thing. It's hard to imagine that, right? Like, because now we can just listen to anything. But yeah, I didn't know what the band sounded like. I'm like, okay, I know one song that Metallica covers or whatever, but I can't find the record. So when I started building that collection up and finally getting stuff, and starting my first band, I was way into classic metal, and that's the kind of stuff I did in high school in the 90s. And like it was just one of those born too late scenarios, like I couldn't get shot playing that music then. Nobody cared about that at all. And I started playing in various bands. I wanted to branch out musically after that, and I wanted to just play different styles of music. Like I knew that like Sabbath was inspired by the blues and stuff. Like a lot of the creators were inspired by other styles of music. Metal had not been created. So I started just doing a lot of different stuff like that, you know, while always being a big hard rock fan. And then, you know, like in 2011, I started Night Demon with Brent and our old guitar player, and we were just like, man, let's just make an EP, just the best, like, new wave of British heavy metal style songs we can write, 4 songs. Let's just do that for ourselves and then just call it a day. And that's what we did. And we sat on that thing for over a year. We had never got released. We just kind of played it for our friends. And we weren't even a band, you know, and people were saying, like, man, you got to put this band together. You got to play live with this band. You got to do more stuff. And we're like, nobody cares about this, man. Trust me. Nobody gives a shit about this stuff. So one day I just sent it over to, like, I can't remember. I sent it to some website in Germany, and I said, hey, man, there's this EP that I came across of an old British heavy metal band. Like, I don't know, it's probably from the early 80s, but I don't think anybody's heard it. So, and the band's called Night Demon. And the guy's like, what? So he played, he's like, this is great. He's like, can I stream this? And I said, yeah, go ahead. So within a day or two, we got offered the Keep It True Festival in Germany. We got like 3 label offers, and it was just crazy, you know. I was like, what the fuck? Like people actually care about this stuff, you know? Like, it's just crazy, man. Like, I was never involved in the internet subculture of heavy metal. It didn't even apply to me. I still went to the record store and bought my records and read the major publications and stuff like that, you know? But those days were over for me. Like, all my buddies that I knew from back in the day, I wasn't in touch with anymore. I mean, we just did it through actual physical mail. And, you know, I thought I had my collection. And then I'd get online and start discovering, like, amazing things, you know? So now we're fully immersed in it. You know, flash forward 4 years later, I mean, we were just like, okay, it's time to live the childhood fantasy right now, you know? Yeah. Like, I never wanted to be the guy in my 30s that's still trying to make it. But now that it's here, it's like it's just better than ever, and it's great. It's our full-time job, and we love doing it, and it's taken us all over the world, and it's just one of those, like, redemption stories for me. So I feel very at home and very comfortable with what we're doing, and, you know, the band has become bigger than the individuals itself, which is a very interesting thing. But there's a lot of diehards out there that, you know, we have a responsibility to, and we continue to deliver on that. That's what keeps us going and keeps us doing it.
So rumor has it that you guys have already recorded the follow-up to Curse of the Damned. Is that in fact correct? And what are you willing to share?
That is in fact correct. That record's not going to come out until early next year, right. 2017. You know, it takes time to set these things up properly. We want to give it the best opportunity we can. So Curse of the Damned, you know, I mean, I'll be honest, you know, well, like you said, there's a lot of people that don't know about us. I think that, like, the hardcore traditional metal audience of the world, I think everybody pretty much knows about us. But there's a lot of people that don't. And we wanted to give the Curse of the Damned, like, the best shot we could. You know, I mean, we've seen a lot of younger bands crank out a record every year, and that's cool and that's good, especially if you're a diehard fan. But, you know, most bigger bands, they do album cycles now like every 3 years. So we wanted to stick to the 2-year cycle here and basically give this album a chance and give the audience a chance to experience it, because we think it's a great record, and we just want to be able to service the world audience with tours on this record. And, you know, it came out in January 2015, but at the end of the year, we made 30 top 10 polls and 5 album of the year. So that told me a lot, you know, and I was like, well, man, there's like so many places that we've toured this record on, but there's a lot that we haven't. And there's also a lot of places that, you know, they discovered us there at a show, bought the record, and loved it. So we wanted to go back to those places and play the record in its entirety, because that's probably not going to happen again. You know, I mean, people aren't going to hear all the songs on the record, you know. So that's the goal of the final Curse tour, and that's why we did it in the States. We're taking it to Europe next week for 5 weeks. I mean, we really just want to, not that the album had a rebirth at the end of the year because of all that press, but it really just kept going, and it seems to be picking up even more speed right now. So instead of just shoving something brand new down people's throat, I mean, we really want to just extend the life of this album and these touring cycles on it, and like really just solidify it and give the fans the Curse of the Dam experience, you know?
Right.
And as you see, like with our stage show, I mean, we have a theme to it based on the album or based on the type of tour that we're doing, you know, and we want to, when it's time for the next record and time for that tour, we'll kick into that. But we're still on this, and people are still enjoying it. So that's the reason for the delay. But we're ready to go. I mean, we understand. I mean, with all the touring we have, when we did have a short break, we knew we had to lay down the next record.
Absolutely. And no, a two-year cycle makes absolute sense in this day and age. And it's funny because I do this as part of my job is learning about new bands and writing up the year-end articles and everything. And even I heard the name in 2015. I even heard it before that, but I never really got to listen to the album until after all the year-end polls were done, and I'm like, shit, this would have been on our list.
Right.
You know, so, and yeah, you think back, you look at albums like Guns N' Roses' first album, Appetite, it's the biggest selling debut album of all time. That didn't happen the year it came out. It took 2 years before people started paying attention, so.
Right, and you have something like Queensryche putting out Empire and having a single that went big that doesn't represent the band at all.
Right.
And then the fans going, what's this Operation Mindcrime thing? This is amazing. And then they have to go out and do the Mindcrime tour after Empire's out, you know? Like, we don't want to have, I mean, that's a great problem to have, but I mean, as a developing band, you know, we really just want to give everything our best effort and give it a chance and let it breathe out there. And look, if it wasn't working and it wasn't picking up steam, we would know. We would not be doing this, you know? But every indication tells us that this is what we should be doing, so we're following through on it. And obviously, based on what you just said, you know, had we not done the Final Curse tour, you know, and come through Boise, you know, I wouldn't be doing this interview, you know, and you wouldn't have heard the record and seen the show. You know, you might have just seen us and said, okay, yeah, great band, but man, these guys have 2 records and an EP. Like, what's, you know, I don't know, like, I haven't heard these guys, you know. So we still like the fact that we're a fairly newer band. You know, there's 15 original songs in the band's catalog. That's it, you know, until the new record comes out. And it's cool to be able to go out and do so much on so little, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, and the interesting thing, because we have the music industry is so diffuse now and we have so many DIY bands and everything, there are a lot of bands out there that are really good that a lot of people have not really heard of yet because there's so many shit bands out there too.
Yeah, there's just so many bands in general. And the problem with heavy metal is, you know, I'm not afraid to say it, but I think, you know, 85% of the bands are not good. I mean, I just think, I don't want to say they're not good. There's a lot that are technically good, but there's a lot of bands that just don't really have any substance behind it. There's nothing exciting about it, and the songwriting isn't great, you know. So it's hard. There's a lot of metal bands in the world, but the ones that are good are definitely worth, you know, they make you feel like you're a part of something, you know, and it's exciting to watch some of them develop.
Absolutely. There's a lot of derivative stuff out there. Now, so before we get out of here, one of the things I was asking about the other album for was not so much to get a head look at what the album is going to look like, because we've got a few months with that, but you have a new guitarist in the band with Armand, who was phenomenal the night I got a chance to see him. What does he bring to Night Demon, and how might he have been involved with the new record? Have you always been the dominant songwriter, or are you?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, like Brent, the other founding member, our original guitar player, he and I have written all the music in the past. He's come up with a lot of the great riffs of the band, you know, and I do like most all of the arranging. But, you know, there's some songs that I've written, like complete songs, you know, in the band's catalog, and, you know. So definitely it was always me and him. You know, I've written all the lyrics. With Armand, the cool thing is, you know, we didn't pull some guy off the street. I've known him for 20 years. We've played in various projects together. You know, he's the drummer's brother-in-law, so which also is awesome. And, you know, he produced the EP and the full length. So, and he helped write like a lot of the guitar solo parts too. So, he has been with the band since day one. We actually asked him to be the drummer when we started, but he didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And neither did we, and he did play drums for us before we got Dustin when we were in between drummers. Like, he did play drums for us for a show. So, he's been involved since day one. So it's a very natural progression for us. And he's an amazing guitar player. And, he has a lot of stage presence, and he sings the backing vocals, which helps me out a lot, which I think are really important live. So, there you have it. It's just one of those things that the timing was right. And it was just one of those things that was kind of meant to be for Night Demon. And he is on the new record. The new record was mainly written by me and Brent. But when Brent left the band, we went on to do the record, and Armand stepped right in. We showed him what was going on, and he added a ton of input and a lot of ideas, and he shreds over the entire thing. It's a really great album.
All right, you guys do this balls out cover of Golden Earrings, Radar Love. This is now a really heavy rock song listening to you guys do it. How did you come to choose that?
That's a great one. And it's funny, we just brought it into the set, probably when you saw us. So it's not something that we've played a lot ever. It's on the first ever Night Demon show happened when we recorded the first EP with the original lineup. And we only had 4 songs, so we had to learn some covers. So that was one of them. So there's a live version of that with the original band on the expanded version of the EP. Right. We like I said, we weren't even a band then, and we were inactive for a year and a half after that. So the only other time we played it was we were in The Hague, Netherlands, last year, playing at the club of the drummer of Golden Earrings. And we're like, man, we got to bust out Radar Love, man. So we went backstage before the show and kind of fumbled through is this how it goes, kind of thing. And we played it, and it was totally epic, So we had a request in Cleveland, and Cleveland is actually our biggest market in the States. We have the most fans per capita there. And we had a request from a fan to play that. And so we're like, Armand is such a talented guitar player that, we didn't have to rehearse it. The band had never played. We'd never played it with him, and we hadn't played it ourselves in over a year. So we just but that video's great. There's some mistakes in there, but we winged it, and it went over so well. We're like, man, let's keep this in the set for a little bit, And it seems to be going over well every night. And so this Anvil run is going to be cool because we're doing something a little different because we've been doing the Final Curse and all this stuff and really playing every song in the band's catalog on the headlining shows. But since this is a support tour, we're going to do mainly all of the covers that we do in the band's catalog, like Axe Crazy, Radar Love, Lightning to the Nations, Road Racing from Riot, stuff like that, and a couple old originals. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'm stoked to bring that back into the set, and I'm stoked that you guys like it because it's always one thing to cover somebody else's song, but to be able to do it to be able to know that you have a style as a band and be able to know that it's recognized as Night Demon is a good thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so last question before we get out of here. You, like me, spend a lot of time in the record stores, especially with the new album stuff, discovering all these bands. What are 3 maybe sort of essential albums for you outside of those big ones that you were talking about, were game changers for you that you discovered?
Right. Jaguar's Power Games, for sure. That's one of the worst album covers of all time. It didn't draw me in to buy it from that. But I think I love the energy on the record. I like the looseness on the drums, and I like the vocals. So I'm very inspired by the vocals on that record. That's a great record through and through. I can listen to that on repeat. Let's see what else. Riot's Fire Down Under. That's another one that's just the whole damn record is good, and you wonder what happened here? How is this not the best, one of the biggest rock records of all time? How is that? How is that not the case? But the band's getting a lot more recognition these days, and that's becoming a classic record, which is cool. It just sucks that nobody in the band in that lineup is really alive anymore. There's a couple guys still alive, but they weren't the key guys, and they didn't stick it through those years. So that's one thing I always think about is I think about what we're doing right now, and I'm trying to enjoy it for what it is right now. But I also think long term, and I think about the legacy Night Demon and what it means. And I try and imagine myself after I die, and imagine what my music is going to mean to the world, you know. And I try and picture that in a really nice way, you know. And if you can have that mindset while you're alive and doing it, I think it kind of drives you forward to do more, you know.
Right.
So there's that. And I would say probably Sir Thungel's King of the Dead. It's a strange record. I mean, it's an eclectic taste, you know, to get into that band. But that band was from Ventura, and we were the only they were the only heavy metal band from my town, you know. And they were weird, and there's a lot of really cool stuff on that record. And like as a kid, you know, I would always drive by, you know, the studio that they recorded it in and stuff, and I would listen to the record, and there was just something to me that was like really magical about it. And now it's become a cult classic all over the world. And, you know, I'm very involved with that band now, and I've actually reunited them. And it's like one of those things. It was like a lifelong goal to do that. And now that I have, like, it's really something that I'm proud of, and that now I'm part of that legacy. But that record was definitely, it was just so interesting to me. Like, it was so different, but it has a certain magic to it, you know, and it still does when I listen to it. So I think those are the top three, like game changers for me. Like when I listened to them, I was just like so inspired and just like, oh my God, you know, it's crazy wearing out the grooves on those things.
Awesome, Jarvis. Thanks so much for taking some time today to chat metal and Night Demon, and just keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's great new music, but it also brings back so many fantastic memories of the shit that we grew up on that was so fantastic. So,
yeah, I appreciate that, man. And just, you know, just to clarify, I would rather listen to something good than something original. That's all I got to say.
I'm with you, brother. All right, take care.
All right, see you.